Joey. It's all true. I am a remarkable person. You know, thank you so much for this invitation. I misunderstood it. President Hodge said, would you like to come to Miami and chill? I didn't know he meant hypothermia. Are you alive out there? Are you okay? I know. I'll be quick, don't worry. I need to go to bed. No, it's a great honor, genuinely, a very great honor for me to be asked to speak to Miami University and the graduating class of 2016. I am not from America. I need to point this out, but I have lived here for the past 15 years. In fact, we arrived here, my wife and I and our 2 kids, on the 30th of June, 2001, which is 4 days before Independence Day. We had no idea. I mean, get over it. Honestly. What a way to behave. People marching up and down, beating drums, blowing trumpets, celebrating the fact the British have left. Do you know how that makes us feel when we've just arrived? We've had to endure 15 of these now. Actually, we've got the hang of it. We spend Independence Day indoors. My wife and I, we close the shutters and light the fire and look at old photographs of the Queen. Wait for the whole dreadful business to pass over for another year. But I live here now. I'm applying for citizenship. My daughter is a citizen. Thank you very much. I was saying at lunch, at the moment, I'm not a citizen. I'm an alien. That's what it says on my passport. I'm a resident alien. So thank you. And I move among you as if I'm one of you. But I'm not. I'm an alien. But I feel very much at home in America. I've lived here for 15 years. I've traveled the length and breadth of the country. I've been given a tremendous welcome. And as Joey said, a lot of people know the work I do through the TED Talks I gave, particularly one in 2006. And he's right, they've been seen by about 350 million people now worldwide. Now, I know that is not Miley Cyrus numbers. But I don't twerk. Well, not normally. I might today, I don't know. In fact, I just did. A very small personal twerk that meant nothing to you, but a great deal to me. But my life has been committed to education, and that's why I'm delighted these TED Talks have been so widely seen, because I'm making a very simple point, really, which is that people create their lives, and they can recreate them, and it's the job of education to help people discover their talents, and as Joey says, their passions and their purposes, in order they should do that. We're here today on what is a very, very important occasion for all of you and for the university. And as I am very grateful, I want to thank President Hodge and Mrs. Hodge for their fantastic leadership of this university over the past 10 years, the Board of Trustees, the faculty who are brilliant here at the university, I know this to be the case, the parents, I am a parent, I know how this feels, and of course the students, I'll come to you in just a minute. Because you're at the brink of a new phase of your life. One of the things I love about the American education system is that these occasions are called commencement. It's not the end of something, it's the beginning of something. In Britain, they're not called commencement, they're called leave and turn the lights out. But here it's the commencement. And you do have an extraordinary adventure in front of you. I published a book, as Joey said, a few years ago, called The Element: How Finding Your Passion Changes Everything. This book, by the way, is terrific. You'd be foolish not to buy this book. I wrote it myself. It's that good. But it's about people finding their talent, finding their passions, and something that struck me for a very long time is that how many people don't enjoy the lives they lead, especially, or the work they do. They put up with it. They wait for the weekend and get through the week as best they can. But I also meet people who absolutely love what they do and couldn't imagine doing anything else. If you said, why don't you change track for a while, they wouldn't really know what you meant. They'd say, but this isn't what I do. This is who I am. This defines me in some way. And it could be anything. It could be teaching. It could be a musician. You could be a dancer, a doctor, a homemaker. I was signing a book in San Francisco a while ago. Not just one book, you understand. Very many books. In a bookstore, there was a large crowd. Throng, I think, would be a better word. A host of people clamoring for my attention. But one of them was in his 30s, and I spoke to him briefly as I signed the book, and I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a fireman. I said, when did you decide to be a fireman? He said, I always wanted to be a fireman. He said, at school it was a problem, because at school everybody wants to be a fireman. But I really did want to be a fireman, and he said, when I got to my senior year, I couldn't wait to leave to join the fire service. And he said, I could remember in the senior year, his teacher saying to the class, you know, what are you all doing next? And people were saying they're going off to great universities and so on. And he said, what are you doing? He said, I'm joining the fire service. And the teacher said to him, why are you doing that? Why are you throwing your life away like this? And he said, what do you mean? He said, you're capable of all sorts of things. Why would you settle to be a fireman? He said, well, it was upsetting, but that's really what I wanted, and I have deep respect for the fire service, so I left anyway, and I joined the fire service, and I've been with them now for 10 years, and I love it. He said, but I was thinking about this teacher when you were speaking earlier, because 6 months ago, I saved his life. He said he was in a car wreck outside of Danville. My unit was sent out, and I pulled him out of the car, and I recognized him. I gave him CPR and saved his life. He said, and I saved his wife's life as well. He said, I think he thinks better of me now. And this is my point. It can be anything. The element, finding your element is the point where passion meets talent. Lots of people are good at things, but they don't really enjoy them. To be in your element, you have to love it. If you love something you're good at, you never really work again. And I think it's desperately important we help people to discover these qualities in themselves. I gave a talk a few years ago at a peace summit in Vancouver. It was called the Vancouver Peace Summit. They're very good at titles in Canada, is what we've discovered. A bit literal for somebody's taste, but the guest of honor, there are 10 people on the platform. I won't go through them all, there isn't time, but the guest of honor was the Dalai Lama. And I had to introduce the Dalai Lama and moderate the opening session, which was called World Peace Through Personal Peace. So I had to introduce, Joey had to introduce me, but I had to introduce the Dalai Lama. This will pass, this too will pass. I was worried about this because the Dalai Lama is the head of a wisdom tradition that stretches back over 2,000 years. And one of its beliefs is that the Lama is reincarnated, so to speak. So it's the same spirit being passed from body to body over the course of 2,000 years and more. So there's a lot to get into an introduction, if you want to be comprehensive. And then I realized I didn't really have to introduce him, because I thought anyone whose name starts with "the," you've arrived, haven't you, socially? Really. If you've managed to collect the definite article at some point, you can relax in most social settings. Sorry, which Dalai Lama are you? That would be "the." Do you mind if I call you "the"? Not at all, no, just... let's be informal. Anyway, he said lots of wonderful things. At one point he was asked a question, let's say there were 2,000 people there, and he took a very long time to answer it. He leant forward and was obviously meditating. I was a bit worried. He went on for about a minute. I thought he'd nodded off, and then he took a breath, and we thought, this is going to be great. This will be great. What's he going to say? And he took a breath and he said, I don't know. And I thought, what do you mean you don't know? You're the Dalai Lama. You have the definite article right there in your name. And he said, I'd never thought of that. What do you think? Not to me, he said it through him. See, I love that. I'll tell you why. I loved it because what it indicated, here's one of the greatest teachers in the world, in one of the oldest wisdom traditions, who's quite prepared to say he doesn't know. And the reason he's prepared to say it is because nobody can know everything. Even if you've got Siri, you don't know everything. And knowledge is unknowable to all of us. Knowledge is a fabric that we weave collectively. We all have a piece of it, but we don't have all of it. And everyone has insights that we don't have by virtue of their personal experiences, backgrounds, disciplinary inclinations, and their own particular take on life. So he's perfectly prepared to say that, and it's very important we understand that if we're in education, that we don't have to know everything. The job of a teacher is not to tell people everything they should know, it's to excite them in the process of understanding, to help them to develop an appetite for knowing. But the other thing he said, which kind of flew from this, was he said, to be born at all is a miracle. So what are you going to do with your life? I don't know if you've thought about this before, but how many people would you think have ever walked on Earth? How many human beings? It's too big to ask you to put your hands up, but have a think about it. I'm talking about modern human beings like us. I'm not talking about Neanderthals who went round on their knuckles. I'm talking about attractive people. Attractive, groovy people, with attractive profiles and a sense of irony. People like us, let's be frank. We are meant to have emerged on the planet about 150,000 years ago. We were cooking a lot longer than that, but modern human beings like us, with our kind of articulate language, our sensibilities, our feelings, our general outlook and dispositions, people like us have been around for about 150,000 years. I don't know how many you think there have been, but let me tell you, nobody knows for sure, but the best estimate is that maybe 100 billion people have lived. Maybe 100 billion people. The thing about that is that every single one of those lives has been different, unique, unrepeatable, like yours. Nobody has ever lived your life, nobody ever will. It'll never be repeated, it's never been anticipated. You're a unique moment in the whole of human history. You're unique because of your genetic makeup, and because of the circumstances you live in, and because of the many aspects of your intelligence and sensibilities that make you who you are. So the Dalai Lama's question is, what are you going to do with your life then? Because you don't get your resume with your birth certificate. You create your life as you move forward in it. As Joey says, everyone has your own path, but there isn't an actual path. You create the path as you take it. Well, there are three principles, I think, on which you might consider creating your path as you move forward. Education, by the way, is based on the opposite of these principles very often, particularly in public schools, not because they're public schools, but because public schools have become subject to a terrible pressure of standardization, which I think is a great tragedy for American education. But these are the principles. For the most part, mass systems education promote conformity, but the keynote of human life is the opposite, it's diversity. Can I ask the parents here, how many of you here have got children, have got 2 children or more? Do you mind putting your hand up? All right. All grandchildren. And the rest of you have seen such children, small people. I'll make you a bet. If you've got 2 children or more, I bet you they are completely different from each other. You would never confuse them, would you? Like, which one of you? Remind me. Because everyone has unique talents, unique abilities, and unique sensibilities. And often these talents are buried very deep. I'm from Liverpool in England, which is the birthplace as well of the popular music group the Beatles. And I went to school in Liverpool, and across the city centre is another school, which I did not attend, but which was attended by Paul McCartney, who is the bass guitarist of the popular music group, the Beatles. Paul McCartney's old school is now one of the world's leading... What happened? The sun came out. Can I stop now? I was just told to keep you going until they got warm. No, so Paul McCartney, his old school is now a school for the performing arts. One of the best in the world. My old school burnt down. I don't know what to make of that, really. Anyway, I interviewed Paul McCartney for the book. And I tell you this because I think it's very important that you don't leave here today unaware of the fact that I hang out with Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney, or Paul, as I call him, took music at school. And I said, did you enjoy music at school? He said, no, I didn't like it at all. I said, did your music teacher think you had any talent? He said, no. He does, doesn't he? One of the other people in the same music program was George Harrison, the lead guitarist of the popular music group, the Beatles. And I asked Paul McCartney if his music teacher thought George had any talent. He said, no, he didn't. Well, he does, doesn't he? So I said, well, would this be a reasonable comment that there was this one music teacher in Liverpool in the late 1950s who had half the Beatles in his class, and he missed it? He said, that's right. Well, that's a bit of an oversight, isn't it? Apparently, Elvis Presley went to school in Tupelo, Mississippi, and he wasn't allowed in the glee club at school. They said he would ruin their sound. Elvis. Well, we all know what great heights the glee club went on to. One said, kept Elvis out of the picture. Human talent is tremendously diverse. Tremendously diverse. It's rich, it's abundant, and it takes many forms, and every single one of us has a different configuration of talents. And part of your mission in life, I think, is to discover what your talents are and which among them you particularly feel drawn to and passionate about. It's what the element is about. And our school systems, sadly, are too much focused on conformity. The second principle of human life is that it's organic, not linear. Can I ask the parents here, how many of you here are doing now exactly what you thought you'd be doing when you were 15? It's not so many, is it? And the reason is you cannot ever anticipate the life you're going to lead. You compose your life as you live it, according to whether you discover your talents, the opportunities you take, or the ones that you don't take. I tweeted recently, you should know this, I tweet. And I asked people if they could say, in 140 characters or less, what their biography had been. These are just a couple of them. One said, I'm an MSc in civil engineering. I work with Unilever in marketing. I co-founded a tech startup. I now work in a kindergarten. One said, I studied business communication. I'm now a professional magician. And I dabble in linguistics. One said, I studied music, taught English, then studied psychology. I now work in prisons. And the one I especially liked was, I had a lifetime in theatre. I'm now running a Dutch cheese shop in the Scottish Highlands. Does that count? Yes, it does count. Our school systems are based a little too much on compliance, I believe. We spend a huge amount in America on testing and standardization when we should be cultivating difference, diversity, and an organic approach to life. I don't know if you know this, but in 2013, the National Football League, which is not football, by the way, I'm just saying, because in football you kick the ball with your foot. You don't run around with it. It's rugby in armour. I can't complain though. I went to see a baseball match at the Dodger Stadium. Nothing happened. And apparently that's the point. Nothing is supposed to happen, and nothing did. But I can't complain because we invented cricket, which is a 5-day game where you stop and have lunch in the middle. There's an American ambassador to the UK, he said, he's a very funny guy, he said it wasn't until he went to a cricket match in England that he fully grasped the concept of eternity. That's probably right. But the NFL was a $9 billion business in 2013. In the same year, the US cinema domestic box office was an $11 billion business. The education testing industry was a $16 billion business. $16 billion testing people relentlessly instead of cultivating their talent, which is really what we should be doing. And this is my last point I just want to make, is that life is highly diverse, it's organic, we create our lives as we live it, no life has been foreseen, you'll create it as you go. And the reason this is true is because human beings, much more so than any other species on Earth, are gifted with deep resources of creativity and imagination. We are the most abundantly creative creatures ever to walk the planet. We're creative in sciences, in math, in technology, in sports, in the arts. We create cultures, we create great civilizations, we create sciences, theories, technologies, and all of these are the fruit of human imagination and its application and creativity. It's our creativity that makes us human, and it's why I think it's been so important that this year at the university has been the year of creativity and innovation. Knowledge isn't static, human life isn't moribund, it's constantly being refreshed and revived through the powers of creativity. And I believe we should be investing deeply now in our powers of creativity because the challenges we face on Earth are now unprecedented in terms of technology, our dependence on this environment, and the sheer numbers on the planet. Education has never been more important than it is now. It's not an exaggeration to say this. I said it in this recent book. H.G. Wells, the science fiction writer, said that civilization is a race between education and catastrophe. It's a very dramatic way to put it, but it is the case. We live in an immensely complicated world now in which we need to develop our compassion, our empathy for each other, and our sense of mutual understanding of how other people live and how we need to live together. I came across this recently, I thought you'd like it. It's about what it is to be British these days. I think you could say American, but it says being British these days means driving home in a German car, picking up an Indian curry or a Greek kebab, sitting at home on Swedish furniture, drinking Irish Guinness or Belgian beer, watching American programs on a Japanese TV. And the most British thing of all, suspicion of anything foreign. That's broadly right. You are living, class of 2016, in one of the most challenging but also one of the most exciting periods in human history. There are more of us on the planet now than ever before. We face huge environmental challenges and strains. There was a program on the BBC recently called, it's about how many people can live on Earth. It was called, How Many People Can Live on Earth? It's a Canadian production, I think. But they came to the view that if everybody on the Earth consumed food, fuel and water at the same rate as the average person in India, the Earth could sustain a maximum population of 15 billion people. And we are now 7.5 billion people on the planet, more than at any time in history, so we're halfway there. But we don't all consume as they do in India. It said if we all consume at the same rate as the average person in North America, that's us, the Earth could sustain a maximum population of 1.5 billion. And we're 4 times past that already. So if the whole world wants to live as we do, and they do, by the middle of the century we're going to need about 4 or 5 more planets to make it work. All these challenges are the result of human creativity, and we can solve them. But we solve them through investing in our talents and our passions, investing in wonderful higher education institutions like this, and recognizing that we share a common fate on this planet, and our role is to solve these problems together with compassion, with mutual understanding, and by plumbing the real depths of our powers of innovation. That's, I think, our historic challenge in education. And within all of this, you too need a life that adds purpose and meaning. And you'll have it if you believe in your talents and invest properly in them. It's a really important day as I say, it's a commencement, it's not an ending, it's a beginning. On your behalf, I want to thank your parents. Say, I am one, I know how this works. You will be parents too, and that at some point you'll understand your parents when you become one. I want to thank the faculty for their extraordinary work here. I've been staying at a house, it's called the Simpson House. Is that right? The Simpson Shade House. And there have been a number of guests at the Simpson Shade House, including the poet Robert Frost. I came across this about what it is to be a teacher. He said there are two kinds of teachers, the kind that fill you with so much quail shot you can't move, and the kind that just give you a little prod behind and you jump to the skies. All the best teachers do that, like the Dalai Lama. They don't tell you what to know, they infect you with enthusiasm for knowing, and I know the faculty here has done that for very many of you. So the parents, the faculty, all the administrative staff here, but above all, can I offer my congratulations to you, the students. You've worked hard, you made it, your life is beginning a new phase now. I'm thrilled and honoured to be asked to say a few words at the beginning of that, and can I give you my very best wishes for a diverse, creative and organic future, and go class of 2016. Thank you.
Please stay right there. Sir Ken, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for obviously inspiring the graduating class of 2016 with your experiences, your good wit, and your ethic in giving back. It is now my honor, it is an honor, for all of us at Miami to recognize formally your many accomplishments as an internationally recognized leader. It is a privilege, therefore, for me to confer on you, with the approval of the faculty and the Board of Trustees of Miami University, and under the authority of the state of Ohio, the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters. I now present you with this diploma and request that you be vested with your doctoral hood. Congratulations.